Hi, and welcome to the Project 180 podcast. My name's Kevin McGowan. Now, it's not often, and by that I mean never, do I get a chance to sit down with a best-selling author. It's really a lot of fun to do that. And today, it's Sheena Yap Chan, a book, podcast, both called The Tao of Self-Confidence, all about her experience as an Asian woman and the shared experience of Asian women around the world dealing with racism and sexism in the workplace. She's a true leader and real inspiration, and I'm thrilled to have her on the show. So please welcome Sheena Yap Chan. Hi, Sheena. How are you doing?
Hey, Kevin, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on the show. It's such an honor to be here today.
Oh, it's very kind of you to say that. But the honor's mine. This is an upstart little thing that we're doing here, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're doing a lot of conversations and interviews about your book. Let's pull your book over here. I know it's your background, but let's get it on all possible screens.
Awesome.
The Tao of Self-Confidence. It's a wonderful read. I'm really glad to have a copy of it. I'll put that back on the. So it's subtle in the background, but it's important that it's there. Maybe you can just tell me a bit about you and your long-running podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, but how that also turned into this best-selling book as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything really started with my upbringing in Toronto, living here in the 90s. I never had any role models that looked like me in any forms of media. So I always felt ashamed of my own culture. I wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes to assimilate to Western culture. And for so long, I just felt like, I didn't feel beautiful. I wasn't enough. And so it wasn't really until my 20s where I dyed my hair back from blonde to my original hair colors where I feel my most authentic self and embrace my Asian culture. And in 2015, I was looking for resources that really catered to Asian women's confidence, but I couldn't find any. It was really difficult, right? Like there was hardly anything that really catered to Asian women's confidence. And so that's when I decided to start my podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self-confidence. Started in 2015 of September, and it's been crazy that it's been almost 8 years since I've started this. I've interviewed over 700 Asian women, have always been an advocate for women, especially for Asian women, because I understand what we go through. And for me, it's really important to create better representation so we can dismantle the negative stereotypes we still go through today. And last year, I was approached by Wiley, which is one of the biggest publishers in the world, to write a book under the same title as the podcast called The Tao of Self-Confidence, A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within. And it's been so crazy to have a book out there, a book that really comes from a different perspective, especially on leadership. Because one of the reasons why I wrote this book was that there was an article or a survey from catalyst.org that mentioned Asian women only represented 2.7% in high corporate or leadership roles in 2021 in the US, and it keeps declining. And so for me, having a stronger representation is really important. I want Asian women to be seen as leaders, to break barriers, to see that we are out there doing amazing things. But I know that culturally we've been told to never talk about our feelings, the bad things we go through. So we repress a lot of stuff. And because of that, it hurts our mental health, it hurts our mindset to move forward. And that's something that keeps holding us back to stepping into our greatness. There's a lot of great leadership books out there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are,
Sure.
how-to books, but we have to really dig deeper and figure out, what is something in our life that's literally holding us back. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're not carrying our own traumas, but the traumas of our parents, grandparents, our ancestors, the historical trauma we've gone through. So really digging deep so that we can realize that, okay, this has all happened to us, and find solutions to move forward, whether it's healing through them, getting the right help, talking to a mental health professional, whatever that help may look like, so that we can move forward and control our destiny versus having our traumas control us. So this is not a typical topic that our culture talks about. In fact, it's a huge taboo, but I believe it's important to have these difficult conversations so we can move forward. And I understand everyone goes through trauma, right? So of course, we may be different, but we go through similar things, whether you're a man, a woman, Asian, non-Asian. This is something that everyone can relate to, of course.
Well, and it's a really great point, and I think the themes in the book are really universal. You're right. You're focusing on women. You're focusing on Asian women in particular,
but I can see myself in some of it as well, reading through, in terms of historical trauma. Obviously, I'm a white male. My trauma is nowhere the same as others. So I recognize that, and I recognize the privilege that goes with that. I also found the book really insightful. Like I don't thought of myself, obviously. I think of, I'm a decent leader, a decent manager, and an empathetic one. But what's interesting is that this was really eye-opening for me to read more about your personal experience, because I've always found as a leader to try and understand, the individuals on the team, right, and what they might be going through at work, trying to get things done, but also outside of that, what's influencing them, from home or whatever. So this gave me a deeper understanding of what might be going through people's minds. I'm just curious what you think in terms of being a leader. How does this, like, how does a leader turn this into like another, tool on in their tool belt kind of thing?
I think it's important to have safe spaces for people to just share their feelings. I think that's very important, having resources, support, because culturally we've been told, especially, in Asian culture, never to ask for help. And because of that, we feel like we have to do everything ourselves and we get burnt out and we feel like we're not good enough. But asking for help is really what can help you move forward faster, right? Because you don't have to do everything yourself. Being able to create open spaces to talk about this, being able to take action on some of the things, because there's a lot of people out there who are, in the diversity, equity, inclusion space. And sometimes it's just all talk and no execution. And execution is really important because if we're just talking about it and nothing happens, then everyone's efforts are wasted, right? And of course, we're not talking about you need to pick one Asian person to fill the quota. It's about there's many diverse talents out there, and sometimes um, you're not picked due to your cultural background, due to the model minority myth, thinking that we're all successful and we don't need help when it's far from the truth. Just little things like that. And of course, this goes out for every single person, right? Not just Asian culture. But being able to just bring different perspectives, being able to see what is happening, and seeing me as a person versus my cultural background.
Right, you're individual, and you have all this background obviously behind you, but you also have a path forward, things you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So being supported in that.
Yeah, and for me, representation is so important because that's how we break barriers. That's how we show others what's possible. That's how we can, open a new door for people, to a new door to possibilities, to new careers, new opportunities. Like when I see people being the first person in the Canada's cabinet, I think that is amazing. Or last weekend, I read an article about a Filipino American who is one of the richest CEOs in the US and makes more money than Tim Cook. I mean, those are stories that I love to hear, right? Because it shows us that we can make it happen. And of course, making it happen is not easy. It's terrifying, it's
Right.
hard, it's debilitating at times. You want to eat your feelings, but sometimes we
Yeah,
just sometimes
I
we
can
just
relate to that much. Yeah.
yeah, right? Sometimes we just need to have the courage to pursue what we have, to pursue what we want, right? And that's how we can create the results. Are we going to make mistakes? Yeah. I mean, I still make mistakes till today. Is it going to be
Sure.
perfect? No. Will it be the right time? Never. Sometimes you just got to start messy and just course correct along the way, because as women, we want to perfect everything, right? We want to make sure we're 110% ready, but something still holds us back. And that's why there's a huge confidence between men and women, because men will go out there and just do it. And half the time they don't know what they're doing, but as long as they produce a result, they're satisfied with it. If it's either a yes or a no, they just keep moving. And it's kind of like, when guys go out and like pick up girls, they'll pick up 100 girls until someone says yes, right? Women won't do that, of course, because we've been programmed not to do that. It's hard for
Yeah.
us to make the first move sometimes, but, and then we end up waiting for that perfect opportunity. But, especially when you're forging your own path, sometimes you just got to go out there and make that first move, create those opportunities, be okay to, ask a question or say, hey, could you buy my book? It,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
seems it's a simple process, but it's not easy, of course, right? Simple and easy are two different things. But the more you practice
Mhm.
this, the easier it does get, because it's about building good habits to build your self-confidence, to show others what's possible, and to live life on your own terms.
You make me think of there was something that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me in the latter chapters of the book was the rule of 51%, being 51% confident.
Yeah.
That's a great way to explain. I wonder if you could maybe explain that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I actually found that rule from like a group coaching program that I was on. And the person was like, you just need 51%. You just need a little bit more than a little bit less, right? I always think you had to be 110% confident to go out there. No, sometimes you just need a bare minimum of 51% so that you can build upon it, right? When you look at a company, how much percent do you need to be a majority stakeholder? 51%, not only a
Yeah, good
little
point.
bit, just a little bit, and you can always build on that. So when you're at least 51% ready, just go out there and then, you'll fumble, of course, you'll fumble. Who doesn't? I fumble all the time, but you can build upon that to reach to, 60, 70, 80, or even 100%. 100%. So you just need a little bit more than a little bit less to move forward.
No, I just found that really helpful for me because I mean I've always had issues with self-confidence, whatever, like so many of us have. But and you're right, thinking I've got to really be able to master this before I can get out there and do the thing. But it's just not true. Like it's like I tell my kids trying to play soccer or something. Like you're not gonna be, you're not being playing the World Cup this week. Just go and kick the ball, right? So it's that level, and once and the skills grow and the confidence grows with time.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to embrace the suck. It's gonna suck. It's not gonna look how we picture it in our head, right?
Yeah.
We'll fumble, we'll fall, we'll miss some goals, but it's about doing it daily. If you really want to be the best, you got to do it daily, right? I mean, one of the biggest people who do that was Kobe Bryant, right? If you look at his past videos, like he literally would do like 1,000 shots a day, right? He would be the first one in, last one out. And for so long I used to think, why is this guy so cocky? Why is he so arrogant? And because he had the right to be, because he put in the work to be the best player that he wanted to be, because that was his goal. And of course, not all of us can do that, right? I mean, he does have he does have more advantages, like being he has a wife that takes care of the household, right? As women, it's sometimes hard for us to juggle, especially if you have kids, and so we do what we can, right? Not saying husbands aren't supportive. There are supportive husbands, but most of the time women are the caretakers, right? We have to do 10 million things on top of our job or a business. So that's why sometimes when I see these gurus or whoever they are, these influencers who'd say you have to hustle 24 hours a day in your business. Well, sometimes as women, we don't have 24 hours in a day, right? We'd be lucky if we get 1 hour. So, we have to do what we can and be okay with it instead of feeling bad. Like, oh, I feel bad. I can't hustle 24 hours a day, because we don't have that luxury, right? Like, Stephen King says he has like 8 hours of nonstop writing to write his books. I wish we had 8 hours of nonstop writing. Like, it's not possible for some of us. Sometimes we can only put in 30 minutes to an hour. And, we have to work with what we have, right? And that's basically it. Like, sometimes it's hard sometimes because we can't do everything all at once. I wish we had clones of ourselves where we can do everything, but we can't. And so that's why sometimes we got to seek support. We just got to take small daily actionable steps to yield those results, right? I know sometimes social media can play a big part of it. It's like, oh, look at me, look at my fancy cars, look at my jet set life, thinking like, oh my God, they have it all figured out, not realizing, that's all surface level. Sometimes we don't even know what's going behind closed doors. And we have to understand that what you see on social media isn't always the absolute truth. Some of them are in debt, trying to keep up with that lifestyle. Some of them are doing unthinkable things that would bring down your integrity. So just let's just be a little bit mindful and figure, like, as much as we can, realize like what we see on social media isn't always the absolute truth. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean you're 100% correct. Obviously, like I'm not posting every, I'm not posting the loaf of bread that just went flat and looks terrible and tastes bad, if on my Instagram or whatever, right? The perfect one that came out just great. Like that's the only one I'm going to put up there. So that goes for anything else in my life or anyone else's, I think, right?
Yeah,
Or it's selective. It's selective media.
for sure.
It's like my selective memory. My wife asked me, "Did you remember to get that?" Like, no, I totally forgot that. It's just these things happen. They're not necessarily as important to you as they might be to someone else.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one more thing in terms of the leadership side. Like, obviously, we want anybody who wants to lead to be able to get that opportunity. And again, sometimes it's an opportunity will just drop in your lap. Sometimes it's something you have to incrementally work on, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. But what advice would you give somebody who's like, no, I really want to lead, I want to create my own business. I want to be that successful author like yourself or podcaster. Whatever challenges they're facing, how would you advise they start?
I mean, starting is the most important because I know sometimes, starting could be the hardest part of this whole journey. I understand because it took me so long to just start some of the things that I wanted to do because I resisted so much because I just felt I wasn't good enough. So just being able to start messy, right? Take things, one step at a time. You don't have to make big leaps and look for support, right? I wouldn't have started the podcast if I didn't have a support system who would advise me on what to do, what not to do, what would be great, or even just encourage me to just put it out there. We can't do everything ourselves, and I think that's the thing we need to understand. Like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to hire a coach or to outsource it or to, be able to focus on your strengths and whatever you're not good at to like find someone else to do it. That's what I think is really important. And yeah, being able to start messy, make mistakes. Don't you can always course correct. We're very resourceful. We can make it happen. And it's really just learning that you can do this, right? Like, belief in yourself is so important. And I know it sounds very cliche and everyone's heard it, but it is really important
Yeah.
because if you don't believe how awesome you are, how great you are, you won't go out there and do it. Like Kobe Bryant, he knew he wanted to be the greatest player, and he kept telling himself he was the greatest player. And because of it, he did what it took to become the greatest player, right? Practicing every day, shooting his shot, doing 1,000 shots a day, even pestering his like team players. Hey, like, I'm already here, right? To motivate them to go and do the same thing so that they can be the greatest team ever, because he knows that he can't do it alone to win championships, right? It takes a whole team. So this is why support is so important. Starting, practicing your craft, and just, figure things out as you go. Like, to be honest, most people in the world, even the people you see on Instagram, most of them are still trying to figure out what they're doing, right? Like, sometimes in this world, we're all just trying to figure things out. And I think that needs to be said more because they don't realize, like, even some of the biggest, like, people you see on the media, still also, like, are trying to figure things out as they go. I mean, like, look at Elon Musk. That guy's always trying to figure things out all the time. Now he went from Twitter to X. Like, he's just figuring things out as he goes after he bought Twitter. And it's like, no, like, if women did that, we get vilified, but the more we keep doing that, we can be seen as just, we're making it work versus being seen like, oh, how could you make that mistake? How dare you do that? So yeah, just taking action as you go. If someone like him can make mistakes in front of the world, and I know it's different. He's a lot bigger, more famous than us, but like, I look at him and I'm like, well, this guy's just, trying to figure things out as he goes. So if he can do it, I can do it as well. So just seeing it in a positive light.
I like how you not only you looking at it in a positive light, but with empathy as well. Like, yep, he's an easy target. And I don't know him personally. I don't know really anything about him. The persona, that media side, but I don't know what he's really like. I don't know what he's really maybe struggling with. I mean, people vilify me now for suggesting he has a soul. Maybe I don't know, but I'm sure he does.
We don't know, right?
You're right. He's figuring stuff out too, and that was actually a funny part in your book as well when you were talking about doing your first video. Okay, quick 2-minute thing, but it took like hours.
Yeah, it took like 2 hours.
It was like, I hate the way my voice sounds, or all that stuff that you go through when you start doing this kind of project, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got butterflies in your stomach, sweaty palms, sweaty pits, like everything,
Yeah.
right? Like the anxiety comes up. You're so
Yeah.
afraid of what other people might think of you. But I know I had to do it, or else, I wouldn't be here today, like just talking, like we're just at a coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, look, Sheena, I think we can wrap it up there, but I want to say thank you so much for taking your time, and thank you. I'll do the like talk show promo thing. Go out and
Thank
pick
you.
up the book and check out the podcast as well. It's fantastic. But thanks so much, Sheena.
Thanks for having me. It's been such a blast.